Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brian Smith, Jason Martinez. We're live at the East Food Hall, Wells Fargo Center. I got a little bit of a phase in my voice here. Do you hear that? I sound like
you're moving in and out of time, right?
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
I am phasing. It is the Flyers in the Wild, and yes, we are on a little early because I guess this is because of an ESPN doubleheader.
Yes, that's my understanding. That it's there's a game in Dallas tonight. I forget who they're playing now. I've forgotten, but yeah, Dallas, maybe Pittsburgh. I don't know, but they have a late game, so we are the early game, and so we get moved a little earlier, which means we get home earlier. So it's good on the back end, but on the front end, it's kind of crazy.
And it's a bit confusing.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Like, what time is it in real life? For us, real life is a 7 o'clock start.
Yes.
So when we vary from a 7 o'clock start, we have to look at the clock and think, okay, what time is it in real life? And
disrupts your meal time.
Just tosses you off just a little bit. But,
yeah.
First world problems, that's for sure.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the homestand so far through the first 4 games. Vegas, 5-3 loss. Buffalo, 5-2 win. Carolina, 5-4 overtime loss. And then Florida, 6-3 regulation win. So tonight it's Minnesota. Saturday it's Detroit at 1 o'clock. And then Tuesday, 5 days from now, it'll be Montreal to wrap up the homestand. 7-game homestand. So it's been 1 up, 1 down. And out of all the points they could have gotten so far, of the 8 possible points, they've got 5. So that's success so far.
That's not bad for, especially for this season. Especially when you came into the homestand going 15 in a row with like 1.8 goals per game or something like that. Like that was a tough stretch. But the one thing that this season has been trying to play the game the right way, and that 15-game stretch included a lot of games where they played the game the right way, and that's what the coaching staff is trying to build here. A lot of those 15 games included games where they give up a few too many penalties, and right now the penalty kill just doesn't work with Travis Konechny injured, and obviously Sean Couturier hadn't been here all year. Cam Atkinson, they're big penalty killers, so that's kind of what led to that. But now the goals are coming all of a sudden, and hopefully again here tonight.
Yeah, and the thing about it is they've been coming from the young guys. It's been coming from the young core of players. Sanheim has, not that he's the young core, he's kind of the middle core, but he has 2 goals in the last game. I'd say from the blue line, but he scored them both really close to the net.
Yeah. No, it's and that's the kind of thing that they want him to do. The thing that's happening here is that the coaching staff has certain developmental goals for a lot of guys, and they're obviously specific to those players. It's not just a team thing. There's things that they want certain guys to do, like they wanted Owen Tippett to start being a playmaker and going to the net and using his size and his speed, and he started to do that. They wanted a lot of the same stuff from Travis Sanheim, and they've been fighting him all year on that, and he started to do that. And then Tyson Forster just showed up and said, "Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's do this." And he, it's ESPN tonight. The telecast is on ESPN if you're looking for it. Brian Boucher is in the building. We were talking before the game. People are still talking about that one wrist shot he had in the Pittsburgh game in his debut, I think it was, right? Was that the debut? Or was it the game before? But it was the Pittsburgh game where he had the shot.
Yeah.
And it was wide, but the velocity and the release on it, I mean, John Tortorella was talking about it for 4 days afterwards, and here we are 2 weeks later still talking about it. So he's just shown up and been ready to go. He's good. It's really been nice to see him jump in. And then, the latest guy to kind of show up here and look like he's at least belongs, if not ready, is Yegor Zamula. He came in and had his first game in 4 months at the NHL level the other night, and he looked markedly improved from when he was last year over the holidays.
The thing is this. I asked Torch before the game about Forster in particular because he had him out there. The game was 5-3, and Florida's got the goaltender pulled. And I asked him, I said, did you put him out there because you wanted to see how he'd react in that situation, or is that earned? And he said, both.
Mm-hmm.
He earned to be out there. He blocked the shot and then, sprung it for the empty net goal, got an assist on it, as a matter of fact. But he also wanted to see how he reacted in that situation. And that, look, we've talked a lot about that, Bri, about the fact that You're getting to look at some guys in situations to find out what they can do in situations because you're not worried about, points in the standings.
Right.
So that's a luxury to have right now to put guys to these in-season tests without any ramifications thereof. And Forster, I think Torts has put a lot of tests in front of him, and he's been acing them all at this point.
There are a lot of silver linings, if you will, to the situation the Flyers are in right now, where they're basically, carefree in terms of wins and losses. And, that's why you see, like tonight, 11-7 again. That's to give some of the forwards a little more ice time that they want to see develop and want to see play well. They've sometimes that's done for injury reasons. Sometimes it's done for strategy reasons. This is just solely to give those guys a chance to shine and to play some more minutes. There's a construction project coming up. Flyers are going to get a locker room renovation. That's a silver lining that they don't. They're going to get to start that early and not have to scramble and get that done late. So it's certainly not where anybody wants to be. They'd much rather be scrambling. They'd much rather be playing into June. But given the situation, they're going to make the most of it, and it's all about building toward the future at this point.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's about, again, 12 games to go. There's a dozen games left, including tonight's, to find out who's who and what's what. And there's still some guys that got some stuff left to prove. There's no doubt about that, which I think is great. And you want to fly that all the way until that final game of the season coming up on the 13th of April, which is, I guess, 3 weeks away at this point. But still some things to prove. It's been a long season in a lot of ways, and oddly enough, it feels like it's been a really fast season in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it does. It hasn't been, and I guess for us that we've been doing this kind of year in and year out, this is the first normal season in 3 years. One that started at the normal time and is going to end at the normal time, had breaks at the normal time.
Started early October and is going to end pretty much mid-April.
Yep. I mean, even last year, there was an Olympic break planned. They didn't use it for the Olympics, but they ended up having to use that to fill in games. So that season, although it started on time, lasted 3 weeks later than a normal year does. It lasted all the way to the end of April. And, the year before that was just, there was no concept of time. When we're playing playoff games in August, and stuff like that. And then the back half of it was kind of like a lockout year where you start in mid-January and you go until May. So, this is the first kind of back to reality time frame wise that the team's had in a while. And, again, being out early, it's okay. It's 2 weeks, probably a lot of these guys, it's 2 weeks off, and then May 1st, right back at it. And, preparing for next year, and you can bet this group's going to be ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, it's going to feel like an eternity off season. I'm not even in the off season yet, and I'm dreading it already. This is what I do.
Yep.
I annoy myself to no end about what's coming up during an off season, and I'm already annoyed by it, and we're not even in it yet, for goodness sake.
Well, at the very least, it will be interesting around here. There's a lot of changes coming, as it's been hinted at here by several folks over the last weeks, months. I mean, Torts has been saying it all year, addition by subtraction. There's going to be some changes, and we're going to be just kind of riding it out. It's pretty quiet in the NHL for non-playoff teams until about the time the Stanley Cup final is over. But it's a really quick turnaround this year because of the way the calendar falls. The draft is on a Wednesday and a Thursday. I don't know if you knew that, by the way. Go mark your calendar. All right. Draft's a Wednesday, Thursday, and then that's the last week of June. And then you're right into July 1, free agency day, and that's probably also going to be the launch of development camp, which is usually the first week of July. So, it's going to be then
you have the dead month of August.
You're going to be crazy right away. Yeah, and then there's 6 weeks where everybody goes to the cottage, right? You got your cottage cheese. You got your cottage, right?
Yeah, cottage cheese maybe.
It comes with the job. Some cottages are nicer than others.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, it's it always is a little bit of a long off season when you don't make the playoffs. But the hope here is that the Flyers are on their way to being in a situation where they're not going to worry about that for a while.
No question. Let's take our first time out here on the pregame show. It is Flyers Game Day, brought to you by Betway. It's Brian Smith, Jason Martinez. Flyers Wild tonight at Wells Fargo Center. We're back after this on the Flyers Broadcast Network. I sound weird when we're on the air. I don't sound weird now, but I sound weird when we're on the air. Are you hearing it weird? Do I sound phased?
Yeah, you sound a little bit like as a can. Yeah, very slight though.
But it sounds normal now.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
It might just be in our.
You noticing it too? Yeah.
If you're not noticing it there, that's good.
Our show, like, it's very bizarre.
As long as it's not that paralyzing delay, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm irritating myself with it, though. I'm irritated all the time anyway. I'm already irritated about the offseason. And they have 12 games to go. I can enjoy nothing. I'm incapable of joy. That's what I've figured out.
The weather will be nice soon.
See, that's not nice weather to me.
What?
I'm miserable because it's going to be hot coming up.
Well, it's going to be nice first, and then it'll be hot.
No, that's not nice.
No? Okay.
It's been nice. I'm not good at this, Mike. I'm not good at transition. I'm good at none of this.
You should move to Minnesota, the home of the 6-week summer.
Yeah, see, that's too long.
That's too long?
Yes.
Oh, they have lakes. You can go sit on a lake for 6 weeks.
I need to go. I'd go to Alaska, but it's light for too much of the day. I'm just realizing during the break here that I'm incapable of enjoying anything. I'm mad about the hot weather already. It's not even hot yet.
Jason's looking for a new home base.
Yes.
And it's like, you go to Minnesota, home of the 6-week summer. Well, apparently that's too long, too.
I think I belong on Pluto, where it's cold all the time.
Yeah, that's cold.
It's constant hockey season, hockey weather.
You could be a reverse snowbird, and then you wouldn't have to worry about traffic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm always going against the grain.
Exactly.
While the geese are flying one way, I'm going the other.
Exactly, yeah.
Saying, what do you want from me? It is the Flyers and the Wild here tonight. 6:30 start. A little bizarre start time, but a game where the Flyers, 3 games left on the 7-game trip. It's been a good 5 of 8 points to start off the homestand, and they'll look to get a win tonight, back-to-back wins. And they're going to have to do it against a good team tonight. This Minnesota Wild team, Bryce, good team. They're second spot in their division in the Central. And they're a team that, if I was in that Western bracket, I'd be keeping an eye on them because they're a big, heavy, straight-ahead team. You know, I think Bill Guerin has known exactly what he wanted to build in his team and has done that and made them, with all pieces are healthy, Kaprizov and everything, good goaltending, big, heavy, healthy team. I think that they can make some noise in the playoffs. And Torts told us pregame, like, if you're not going to, stand in their way, they're going to run you over.
Yeah, they're going to come in waves. They've got, so much to deal with that it's hard to match lines against them. I mean, it's pretty tight in the West right now. They are, they're at 90 points. So is Dallas, the other Minnesota, right? Edmonton is there as well. The leader in the West right now is Vegas at 94. So they could very easily go on a run here and win the West. You never know.
And be that top seed.
Yeah. I mean, they're 7-1-2 in the last 10. They seem to be catching fire at the right time. Problem is, so is everybody else. Those top 3 teams in the Pacific have all got 8 wins in their last 10 games. Edmonton's on a 5-game bender. So, right now it's you really are just trying to keep up with everybody. You lose one game and all of a sudden you got 4 teams slingshotting past you. They're not all that far from being out completely. Winnipeg is the second wild card at 83. That's only 7 points off.
Yeah.
So, granted, we're running out of runway here. For Minnesota, this is game number 72. So they only have 10 left after this. They should start to, be creeping towards wrapping something up. But you can't let your foot off the gas right now if you're the Wild.
Well, here's the thing, too. You want to stay out of that 2-3. You'd much rather go into division winner versus a wild card, because if it were to end today, it'd be Minnesota versus the reigning Cup champ Colorado Avalanche. And depending how things break down over this final 10, 11 games for these teams could determine whether you have home ice or not.
Exactly.
And home ice when you're dealing with Colorado in the Mile High is something that's significant.
Home ice is significant everywhere in the West, I feel like. I mean, you're Minnesota. Your closest opponent is either Chicago or St. Louis, neither of which are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So your closest playoff team, if you're Minnesota, might be Colorado. I don't know.
Geographically?
I'd have to take out my map and my compass and draw a circle. I don't know how far Winnipeg is from Minnesota as the crow flies, but, you got a border there. So, I mean, there's no easy trips coming up for these Western Conference teams. The two closest to each other would be Vegas and Los Angeles if they were to play in the series. But everything else has travel, and like you said, there's the altitude factor in Colorado. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways they can go, and it would be beneficial to them if they're in that top spot in the Central.
See, now I'm figuring out why I'm so darn miserable.
Why is that?
Because I'd love to be having these conversations with the Flyers.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, if you win tonight, you
have
that. Then the matchups against Pittsburgh, or hey, if we win tonight,
we could talk about it on the other side of things.
Yeah,
if they don't win tonight, they've got an 8.5% chance.
Yeah, that's see, I mean, we'll have those.
It's a little less appealing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I can't. I know that the word rebuild's been thrown around lately, and Danny's throwing it around, Danny Briere and Torts certainly, and that's the situation. That's the reality of it. But man, it's like I can't wait to be back to be in one of those teams that's, we're in the playoffs and we got this matchup and it could lay out like this if we win this, or I'm just impatient. I guess
you want it to matter,
yeah,
and then it'll get there. This is an aside. Does Bill Guerin count as a former Flyer?
Yeah, he came here on a PTO
in training camp, didn't make the team.
Yeah,
but he wore the jersey once.
Yeah, I remember interviewing him during the intermission of a preseason game that year. What was it, 2014? Earlier?
It was earlier than that because
12,
I'll tell you why I know this. When I met Bill Guerin, he was stark-ass naked on a massage table. I walked around a wall right into him getting worked on, and I was going to just turn and leave. But no, he looks up at me and says, "Hey, how you doing?" Bill Guerin shakes my hand. And I'm like, "Hi." But that was pre-renovation of the Flyers locker room at their practice facility, which happened in the summer of 13.
Okay.
So it could have been far back as 11-12 because I don't think it's a lockout year.
It may have.
So, I mean, it's been a while, but yeah, he was a PTO, and sometimes I confuse him and Hal Gill. Hal Gill was here 13-14, I think, and he did make the team.
Yep.
But he played like 5 games because that was the one year the Flyers had no injuries whatsoever on their defense. He was brought in as the 7th D.
Yeah.
So,
wow. Yeah, I think it definitely was. It was definitely pre.
Yeah.
And it was not the lockout year for sure.
Yep. So probably 11-12 is there somewhere. But
I don't even think they played preseason games in that lockout.
We played one, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And Scott Lawton got a 5-game tryout. We had camp here in 13-14 because there was Voorhees was not usable. So that was fun. And you would think you can have training camp at your regular rink. Well, everything they need to function at Voorhees is at Voorhees.
Yeah.
And very little of it is here. So.
Yeah, hauling it all over here.
Yeah.
Not ideal. Let's take our last time out here of the pregame show. We'll give you the line combinations. 11-7 for the Flyers again tonight. So we'll give you all the details on that and much more as we take you to the countdown to face-off, followed by all the first period action between the Flyers and the Wild here at Wells Fargo Center. It is Flyers Game Day, brought to you by Betway on the Flyers Broadcast Network. Now it sounds fine to me. Isn't that weird?
That's because we fixed it.
That's the old Tim Sabian fix that I used to do. when I'd be doing imaging at WYSP, I'd bring down the imaging piece, like for Eagles game day, the promo, and I'd play for Tim, and he'd go, "No, I need more." I go upstairs and I'd sit in my studio for a half hour, and I bring it back down to him, and I play it again. He go, "Perfect." I literally changed nothing. Needs more of this, needs more of that. Turns out it was all there.
I had to completely rewrite Coates's read for the Wings emo night.
Emo? Like
Yeah.
finding emo?
Yeah. Because there were way too many words in it he didn't know how to say, and I don't know how to. I don't know how to say them, so I couldn't help him. So.
That's not how the garage should sound. There's weeds everywhere in this lawn. It's time to take action with Scott's turf.
I guess maybe Fall Out Boy is emo music.
I guess. See, I didn't even know what emo music
Neither did I.
was.
I never heard of it till last week. Maybe Pierre plays it.
I feel so old. I don't even know what that is. Back live at the Wells Fargo Center. It's the East Food Hall with Brian Smith and Jason Martinez. Flyers game day brought to you by Betway. Flyers and Wild tonight. Saw the Wild earlier this season.
Yeah.
I remember thinking when we saw the Flyers play against the Wild that I really liked the game of one of their young players. A guy who wasn't necessarily taken all the way at the top of the draft, Matthew Boldy. I thought he shone real well in that game. And he's a good young player. Going to be a big piece for them going forward. He's fourth on their team in scoring, bro. 71 games played. He's got 52 points, 23 goals, 29 assists, 16 power play assists for Matthew Boldy. He's only 21 years of age. He was the 12th overall pick in the 19 draft. He's a player I like a lot.
He is, he came, I'm not saying he's Cutter Gauthier, but he's got the same path. U.S. national team, Boston College. Yep. He spent 2 years there. We're still up in the air on whether Cutter's coming out or not. But, from there to Iowa, split, he did split last season with Iowa and Minnesota and has jumped right up and put together a 52-point season as a 21-year-old. That's a pretty good hit for a 12th overall pick.
Yeah.
That's doing better than some of the teams before him have done with their picks. So, that's a good get for Minnesota. It was, they're not quote unquote rebuilding either, but they were definitely trying to kind of, rearm themselves and, keep going forward. And, he was in that same draft, at a national team development program. He was the first of 4 consecutive picks in that round.
Yep.
And 7 of the first 15 that came off that team. Cam York was one of them too. That's just he's another testament to where youth hockey and amateur hockey is going in this country.
Yeah, and the U.S. NTDP, the National Team Development Program. There's another guy that's with the NTDP this year, Will Smith. And I don't mean the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's actually going to BC next year, projected to be a top 5 pick in this draft as well. Maybe he's going back there to play with Cutter Gauthier should he return next year.
And depending on where the standings are on a given day and how many times you click on that little draft simulator thing, sometimes you see his name next to a Flyer logo.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. But,
he's projected top 5.
He's definitely one that should the Flyers not win the lottery, would be in the wheelhouse there for them to select with that first pick.
Let's get to the Flyer line combinations for this game. Let's start out with the line of Noah Cates, Joel Farabee, and Owen Tippett. They're probably going to draw the toughest assignment to defend against, but that's a line with those 3 players that they're, Torts is not only going to want them to defend, but he's going to want them to produce offensively as well. So it's the 2-for-1 line, if you will.
Yeah, and again, that line right now is the Flyers' first line, and it's kind of by default. I mean, the Flyers have an entire first line worth of players in the lineup right now due to long-term or short-term injuries. So, that is where they're at now. If everything goes well for Philadelphia moving forward here, you could see that grouping drop down maybe to the second pairing, and when they're slotted second or third or however you want to slot them on a given night, they become even more effective.
Yeah,
because you've got a Sean Couturier line going against the top guys, and then you've got a Noah Cates line where Cates has spent the whole year as a first line center now, going against the team's second or third line. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we look at this year and say, hey, this is the silver lining, because with no Sean Couturier here, Noah Cates has taken huge strides.
Yeah,
would not have done that if he's playing behind Coots in the lineup. So, again, Flyers will take what they can get out of this year, and that's one of them.
Frost, Lemieux, and Forster. On the second line, Hayes, James Van Riemsdyk, and Wade Allison. And then Scott Lawton and Nick Delarier together with a center to be named later. And then the D combinations, Sanheim and Ristolainen, Provorov and York, Sealer and D'Angelo, Zamula in there as the seventh D as well. We'll see how he's intermixed into the lineup. Thought he looked really good the other night. And in that, it will be Carter Hart for the Flyers. Do we know, is it Marc-Andre Fleury going?
It is.
It is? Okay.
Yes.
So we get the Flowers. A lot of history there between Fleury and the Flyers.
Yeah, he's got a win or two against the Flyers.
Yes, he does.
30?
Is that how many?
Something like that. It's up there. It's him and Hank. Him and Henrik Lundqvist. And Brodeur obviously is up there.
I was just going to say Marty's got to be
but
real.
Yeah, he's got a ton. And my understanding too, I did a pregame hit with Minnesota's radio. That Jared Spurgeon is back.
Okay.
He's returned from Minnesota. So the late tweet here. I don't know if you mentioned this, but John Klingberg out.
Okay.
So he's got an upper body, and John Merrill comes in with Alex Goligoski for them. So a little bit of lineup shuffling here on both sides.
All right. So regular season numbers: Fleury's 59 games played, 32, 19, and 2.
32
against the Flyers. A 2.86 goals against average, and a pretty low save percentage, all things considered, 902. One of his lower in the league.
He's the most. I think he might be the most likable guy in the league.
Yeah,
even though he's a Penguin, you couldn't hate him.
Yeah,
I mean,
to me, he was that's why I wanted to see him fight Binnington. Last night.
Yeah, and then
good versus evil.
And when they wouldn't let him, he wanted to go get his mask because he didn't like how his hair looked.
Yeah, he said, "Come on, it'll be fun." But he's always got that big smile on his face, and he is a very likable guy. And he's been at it a long time. 2003 draft pick. So he's been around for quite a number of years. But let's get to coming up. We've got our countdown to face-off, followed by all the first period action between the Flyers and the Minnesota Wild. Yeah, it's a little early tonight, a little earlier than normal. But Tim Saunders and Steve Coates, they're standing by. They've got all the action for you coming up. And you've been listening to Flyers Game Day, brought to you by Betway on the Flyers Broadcast Network.
You are listening to